Hello and Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Guest in Town and I'm Faisal Rahman. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have with us Her Excellency Dr. Noeleen Heyzer. Dr. Noeleen Heyzer is the Under Secretary General of the United Nations and the Executive Secretary of ESCAP. Thank you very much, ma'am, for taking out your time and being with us. Ma'am, what sort of experience up till now have you had? What are your views about it?
In terms of the Commission,
in terms of holding this position?
Well, it has been a major challenge, but it's been extremely exciting. ESCAP is a regional arm of the United Nations. It's the Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, and it's the largest commission that the UN has. So I have used this commission basically to develop an inclusive and sustainable development agenda for Asia Pacific using regional cooperation. And that has been a major challenge, but it has also been heartwarming to see how the countries have actually responded to an agenda of inclusiveness and sustainability.
So what is the mission statement? What is the agenda? What are the objective primary goals of this organization?
Well, at the end of the day, if you look at what inclusive and sustainable development means, I could actually decompose it, if you like, into 4 elements. So one is, how do you sustain economic growth, especially at this particular time when recovery is still very fragile. But how do you ensure that this growth is based on growth with equity? So basically it is about equitable growth, an agenda of equitable growth and shared prosperity. It is an agenda that brings about more social inclusiveness. So it's about social equity, it's about social protection. How do you bring about social progress that is more inclusive? And thirdly, it is about how do you do economic and social development within the carrying capacity of our Earth. So how do you deal with the whole issue of climate change, of ecological sustainability? And increasingly, we cannot take development gains for granted. It can be washed away very quickly because of natural disasters, and the flood of Pakistan is a very good case in point. And therefore, how do you bring about resilient development? So these are the 4 agendas that we are pushing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, when you talk about a country which is underdeveloped, in a developing phase, or a developed country, so how would you differentiate these 3 phases, ma'am? Particularly talking about Asia, our region.
Asia is a region of great diversities, and because it is a region of great diversities, it's also a region of different strengths. So you have the economic powerhouses like Japan, the Republic of Korea, China, India, and so on. So these are huge economies, and they are the economies that are holding not just the Asia region together, but also the economic recovery in the world today. In fact, people talk about the shifting of the economic power more and more towards Asia. Yes. Exactly. And so that's
about Asia
this is exactly right. And because of that, you can talk about these as really the economic powerhouses, but at the same time, we are also a region where we have 980 million people living in absolute poverty. And these are living in the least developed countries and the fragile economies and so on. And therefore, there are great disparities.
So your organization doing a lot for their social uplift?
We are really making sure that we take care of economic growth and wealth generation, but we need to ensure that we also take care of the disparities. And in this climate of economic recovery, we can turn the disparities into an opportunity, if you like. Because at the end of the day, if we begin to close our development gaps, we actually begin to strengthen the economic security of our people and therefore allow them to participate more in the market. In fact, the term that all of us hear is that there is falling global aggregate demand because of the global situation, and therefore the imbalances have got to be addressed. But we can address the imbalances by creating a more equitable Asia-Pacific region and having more people participate in the market through income security and decent work. And therefore, closing the development gaps becomes critical in the generation of both domestic and regional demand.
Ma'am, when it comes to Pakistan, when we say you need to generate economic activity, that's the primary objective of any government, rather. what are the strengths and what are the weaknesses? And how do you, rather, let me rephrase my question, how do you do the SWOT analysis of Pakistan when it comes to generating economic activity and seeing Pakistan like a country like Malaysia maybe in the next 20, rather 15 years?
Yeah. Well, I saw the growth rate of Pakistan before the floods. It was at 4.1%, and in fact it grew quite remarkably from 1.2%.
This has actually hit 8.4%.
Yeah, and but now because of the floods, unfortunately, it's going to fall. I hear the estimate for 2011 is 2.5%, right? And what it means is that that the economic structures are firstly being washed away. The agricultural lands are submerged. Infrastructure has gone. The bridges, the roads, the businesses. But equally important, also the shortages of energy and the energy crisis within the country is also a major problem. And therefore, one needs to ensure that when you rebuild this country, when you pass to the stage of recovery and long-term development, one needs to build the economic infrastructure, the economic and social resilience of people, so that they can actually deal with the disaster.
Ma'am, any particular areas where primarily you're focusing at the moment?
Well, I think in terms of the whole commission, we have been looking. We've just came out of the ASEAN summit, and here the issue of regional connectivity is a major concern. But how do you actually connect Asia Pacific in such a way whereby we can have a more unified market? But at the same time, we're not talking just about the hardware of connectivity. We're talking about the software, the people-to-people connectivity, the really breaking down of the barriers, and basically the breaking down the barriers, and also the movement of people within our region. Because whatever it is, migration is going to continue. And how do we ensure that it is safe, both from the receiving country to the sending countries to the transit countries? And in that, the whole issue of women and international migration is also very, very, very critical. I know that most of our countries, in fact, depend very much, especially some of the poorer countries and the middle income countries, are highly dependent on remittent wages.
Dr. Noeleen, there's another question now, this is popping up in my mind. United Nations, they have got many organizations, UNESCO and for children and for health and for food and blah, blah, blah. And they're all doing a significant work, and they're really making a difference. How is your organization different from others?
We are the regional arm of the United Nations for Asia Pacific.
What do you mean with the regional arm?
Exactly. So what is the UN actually about? It is about norms and standards. So we set the norms and the standards in terms of what is inclusive and sustainable development. For example, if you're talking about energy efficiency, what are the standards of energy efficiency? If you're talking about some of the issues, say of cross-border engagement, where are the treaties? When you have the Asian highways, what are the standards of road safety? What are the standards of trucks that crosses border, and so on? So it's the standard setting role, the convening role. We do the analysis. We really look at some of the trends that are developing and try to develop a common voice, a coordinated regional voice.
But do you think you can have a uniform system, parallel, or what?
The thing is that you can have a coordinated voice. For example, we were asked at the regional commission that we had at the Republic of Korea, for example, that because Korea is the chair of the G20, so they wanted to make sure that it is not just a summit of the G20 countries. They wanted the outreach. So they came to the United Nations and basically said, you know what, we need to hear the voices of the non-G20 countries. So we organized meetings of the 15 least developed countries. We had meetings of countries that were not part of the G20 agenda, and we made sure that their voices were heard through our Secretary General. But beyond that, the Secretary General has just finished a summit on the Millennium Development Goals. And one of the things that we are doing is to try to use regional cooperation to make sure that the off-track countries are assisted by the on-track countries. There's such a lot of of expertise and knowledge and good practices that could be shared. So this is what we do. We convene, we do the analysis, we provide the knowledge. Because at the end of the day, if you look at where the change is, what are the drivers of change? Increasingly, Asia Pacific is a continent where knowledge drives change. Good practices, technologies.
This is the term we have always heard, knowledge-based economy. Look at the West, they have actually gained so much out of it. Ma'am, let's talk about the recent floods, because I believe that we have almost, they're certain because of when you look at the report from the World Bank or the Asian Development Bank, they say the initial is about $10 billion and it can go up to $30 billion in the long run, the overall effect of the flood on our economy. And then we look at being the first line of defense against the terrorism in Afghanistan or in our bordering areas. We've almost lost about the business or otherwise $45 billion worth of overall impact which we have actually suffered up till now. What exactly is your organization doing regarding both these issues now?
At the end of the day, the flood destroyed a lot. But at the same time, any crisis brings an opportunity. It is an opportunity to build back better, to give back the hope to the people. But what this means is that it is not just restoring the old livelihoods and the old buildings and so on. It is to make sure that these are built according to new standards of resilience, and that we need to restore not just the infrastructure, but really the economic and social fabric, and making sure that the communities are resilient. So in the case of ESCAP, we have invested in early warning, including space technology. But at the same time, we have also done a lot of good practices. We have helped in the tsunami. We have had the Tsunami Trust Fund that we manage. I have been personally involved with Cyclone Nargis, and I was very pleased to use the experiences of Pakistan when it came to the earthquake as one of the lessons learned for the recovery. And so there are many lessons learned from China, from Indonesia, from Pakistan. I was thinking of developing actually a triangle of knowledge, if you like, of how to deal,
and how to manage,
but also beyond the management, how to build back better. How do you build resilience? How do you build disaster risk reduction into the infrastructure, the building, into a future? But beyond that, it's really preparing the communities, because the capacity building of communities to make them more resilient is absolutely critical.
But during the era when this earthquake came in year 2005, and I'm a witness because I was also a part of the entire deal when we were working together to sort of like take care of the entire issue. We witnessed one thing, that the money was actually pouring in like rain. And this is not what I'm saying, this is what most of these people from United Nations, from the health organizations or from the food and security sector, they used to say. Are you satisfied with the kind of aid we are getting in this disaster?
I think it can be quicker. It can be quicker because you have only received 40% of the money that has been pledged. And I think that now there will be a recovery plan, and also you're having the development forum next week, and therefore it is very critical that we make sure that Pakistan remains in the world's consciousness, and that because this disaster is so huge. It's huge for any country to handle alone, and it is huge not just for Pakistan, it's huge for the whole region, and it is in the region's interest and the world's interest to make sure that Pakistan can recover from this huge disaster and stand to be really to give back a future of hope to its people, because I know that in many areas the water has actually receded and people are going back to their homes with hope, and we have to invest in that hope. We have to make sure that there is a new direction of development.
Encouragement and support.
Absolutely, and the world community will have to come in a very, very big way and have to invest and make them believe that we are there in solidarity to make sure that there is a productive economy, to make sure that their societies are more inclusive and socially just. So it's not building back the old, it's not building back the same, but it's building back better. I think their suffering and what they have lost have got to be respected, and to give them a much better future for their children.
Dr. Noeleen, you as the head of this organization, you're actually handling the entire area starting from Turkey all the way up to New Zealand. And that's enormous, it's huge, which includes Far East. And we have witnessed that during the last 2 decades. Look at what Malaysia has done, look at what Indonesia, Korea, even Vietnam during the last 1 decade, they have really emerged as huge economies. So is Thailand. When we look at, though they have got plenty of oil in the Gulf region, but look at Dubai, they have really come up well. But when we look at Pakistan, India being the larger country has a different dynamics altogether. But when it comes to Pakistan, who was located in the right region with the enormous amount of resources, young population, all sorts of seasons and everything, the only damage done was because of the Afghan war. And we ended up inheriting this element of terrorism. What sort of a future do you see for Pakistan, and what is the solution in your mind for this?
You know, at the end of the day, you have multiple challenges. I mean, the floods came when there was already a crisis of the internally displaced population, and you also have, you know, a situation where there were all kinds of problems because of insecurity. But at the end of the day, I have a lot of hope in Pakistan, because you have shown resilience in so many different ways. And I know that because I have had the experience of working with some of the best people from Pakistan in the United Nations system. And I know the capacity of the people who are here. I've worked with the women of Pakistan, I've worked with the men of Pakistan, and therefore I know that you will find a way to deal with all the multiple challenges, and that you have the capacity of turning these challenges into opportunities, because this is what Asia is known for. I mean, we have never given in to any crisis. The 1997 crisis taught us that we needed our reserves. We need new ways of doing things. When the 2008 crisis hit us, we recovered very quickly because we learned from the last crisis. So every crisis makes us stronger. And I know that as Asia, we don't, a crisis and uncertainties and volatilities is all part of living. And it's out of that we gain our strength and we gain the solidarity. And this is where we find our common humanity.
Thank you very much, ma'am. These were really encouraging remarks. Thank you so much for taking out your precious time and being with us. And that was Dr. Noeleen Heyzer, the Under Secretary General of the United Nations and the Executive Secretary of the ESCAP. Thank you very much for watching the show. And that's all we have this time. Next week, same time, inshallah, we'll see you again. Till then, goodbye.